Hello, welcome to my fifth railway film. My name is Malcolm Hales, and what you are about to see is video footage of North Lincolnshire Railway operations on the route between Northorpe and Brocklesby taken during the 1980s. This route is significant as it was the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway Company's main line to the east coast. It opened in two parts. The route from Brigg to Grimsby and New Holland opened on the 1st of March 1848 and the route from Gainsborough to Brigg on the 2nd of April 1849. The first Earl of Yarborough was instrumental in building the railway, and his son Lord Worsley became the company's first chairman. They lived at Brocklesby and they built a railway station to serve their estate. The station opened to the public on the 1st of November 1848 and has seen many royal visitors. In 1989 it was being used for stopping trains on the Doncaster to Cleethorpes service. We begin our film with the Earl of Yarborough's Tudor Gothic style building situated on the down platform at Brocklesby station. It had contained railway rooms and offices and one private room for the Earl of Yarborough. It has since become unused and was in a very run-down state. However, in 1985 it became a listed building and was soon to become a private dwelling. In 1988 I filmed the route from the front cab of a locomotive that was hauling a coal train from Immingham to Scunthorpe. After leaving Wrawby Junction, we are now approaching Brocklesby station. The train is now nearing the connections to the up and down goods that ran between Brocklesby and Barnetby. The goods lines are the rusty tracks each side of the main lines. Both of them were taken out of use by the civil engineers, who were unable financially to maintain them. Brocklesby Junction signal box on the up platform, built by the Great Central Railway Company, opened in 1914 with a 96 lever frame. It replaced a Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway Company signal box built in the 1880s. The junction takes railway lines from Hayborough and Ulsby in the east and from Barnetby in the west. On duty was relief signalman John Cavill. The other men in the box are engineers dealing with signalling maintenance.
They don't have a meeting yet, but they are going to release one.
Yeah, so it's the same line, Barnetby East. There's going to be someone who looks at that.
Oh, well, that will make it easy.
No.
Yeah. But we're waiting on that for starting signal be down.
This train from Cleethorpes is arriving into the station from the Hayborough direction. It then departs on the down main line towards Barnetby, its next stop. Approaching the junction from the Ulsby direction is a loaded oil train travelling from one of the refineries on Immingham Dock. As previously stated, the decision in 1988 by the engineers to close the up and down goods lines between Brocklesby and Barnetby took the operating department at Immingham by surprise. Immingham management deemed there was a sufficient amount of goods traffic requiring the use of the lines, and they took the issue to British Rail headquarters. After a stern exchange of views, a compromised agreement was reached. The down goods was reinstated, but the up goods could not be saved, and it remained closed. This loaded oil train from Immingham was entering the recently restored down goods line towards Barnetby. We are now returning, back in time by a few months, to the front cab of the locomotive hauling the coal train from Immingham to Scunthorpe. It was filmed before the down goods line was reinstated. The next feature on the route from Brocklesby Junction was the lime quarries at Melton Ross. Everywhere here was covered with white dust, including railway tracks. The railway companies engaged in business moving lime and stone all over the country, and trade flourished until the 1970s. Road transport slowly took over the trade and railway business fell away. It came to an end in 1982 and all lines were lifted. This bridge for road traffic supports the A18 highway near Humberside Airport. As we approach New Barnetby level crossing, we pass a light engine on the up main line travelling to Immingham. The next feature on the line was New Barnetby level crossing. It opened in 1848 with gates over 2 railway lines. In 1911, for the opening of Immingham docks, the crossing was widened to accommodate the up and down goods. This caused long delays, especially for children going to school. When the local council complained, the Great Central Railway Company built a footbridge. On this day, relief railman Chris Tye was opening the gates for the passage of a train. His place of work was a small cabin next to the downside tracks. Inside were line indicators and communication equipment with the signalman at Barnetby East signal box. The next block post from Brocklesby was Barnetby East signal box. The signalman on duty, Peter Muxlow, was signalling 2 passenger trains travelling through Barnetby station. On the right of the signal box diagram are the two main lines between Brocklesby. No goods lines are shown. In the centre is Barnetby Station. The lines through the middle are the main lines to and from Wrawby Junction. Each side of the platform islands are the slow lines. At the bottom of the diagram, next to the down slow, is the goods line and numbers 1 and 2 down siding lines with connections to two stabling sidings towards the box. Wrawby Junction is shown on the far left. Barnetby East signal box, built by the Great Central Railway Company, opened in 1914, replacing a previous signal box which was demolished. This is a view of Barnetby Station from track level. These tracks approaching from the east includes the goods line, which was not in use. Barnetby Passenger Railway Station opened to the public on the 1st of November 1848. It catered for stopping passenger trains travelling between the East Coast, the Midlands and the North. On the right of the station entrance is the booking office. Inside is the passenger's ticket collecting window. This photograph shows the interior of the booking office, the other side of the window. Railman Chris Tye was the office clerk on duty. This view shows the up slow line entering Barnetby Station, platform track number 1. On the right is the disused goods parcel platform and shed. Its railway connection was long gone. Arriving into the station on the up main line from Wrawby Junction is a train from Sheffield. One of the station's staff's duties was to escort vulnerable passengers across the tracks to the platforms, as the footbridge was not designed for their use. All platform buildings contain waiting rooms warmed by coal fires. This diesel multiple unit train departing number 2 platform was travelling to Cleethorpes. Following it was an empties oil train passing from the up slow line towards the main line heading towards Immingham Docks. In the opposite direction, approaching Barnetby East, is a loaded oil train from one of Immingham's oil refineries. Another loaded oil train from Immingham, this time on the down slow line, is passing through an area where on Thursday the 16th of January 1986 a major derailment occurred to a train carrying tank wagons loaded with aviation fuel. Humberside Fire Brigade filmed the scene. Unfortunately, it didn't contain sound. The train, 6V53, driven by Immingham locomotive driver Charlie Bell, contained tank wagons full of aviation fuel for Heathrow Airport. It came from Humber Oil Refinery and was to run via Lincoln to Langley Oil Depot in West London. The train became derailed just before 6 a.m. and 2 of the train's oil tank wagons were punctured, losing lots of oil. Immediately, railway managers and the emergency services were called. When the fire brigade arrived, they began spraying the tank wagons and the surrounding area with foam to prevent fires and explosions. British Rail on-call wagon maintenance officers, including the Scientific Services officer, were soon at the scene. They estimated that approximately 40,000 gallons of spirit had been lost. After the site had been made secure, arrangements were put in place to decant the tanks. Once the decanting process was complete, the recovery operation began. Firstly, by the removal of the tank wagons that were still on the rails. This had to be done in a finely judged manner so as not to disturb the others. Immingham Area Manager John Reeves was in overall charge of the mishap site. And Immingham Area Traffic Manager Fred Gilliatt was there to ensure the safe removal of the wagons. A locomotive, engine number 47223, was brought onto the train very slowly by Immingham guard Len Burgess, who was then to couple the engine to the end wagon. Once they were ready, Fred gave last-minute instructions to the driver. He then signals the driver to slowly haul the tank away so as not to disturb the others. After the tank wagon was checked over by maintenance staff, it was removed from the scene. Since the accident, no trains had been allowed past the site. During the early hours of the next morning, I, Malcolm Ailes, working as pilotman, instigated single line working on the up main line between Brocklesby and Wrawby Junction, using the up slow line at Barnetby for up trains. A restriction of 5 miles an hour applied through Barnetby station. On Friday, the breakdown crew had begun preparing the removal of the ruptured and wrecked tank wagons from the site. This was being done with caution, and the fire brigade was on hand to assist if necessary. Once the fire brigade were satisfied the site was safe, they began removing their equipment. The locomotive was then brought onto the site with the intention of moving the first derailed tank wagon so that workmen could uncouple it from the others. With just the right amount of space, they began the uncoupling and removing anything holding them together. Once uncoupled, the locomotive separated them by dragging the coupled tank wagon along the ground. It allowed the crane sufficient room to clear the track of the remaining wrecked tank wagons and any large debris. Firstly, however, they had to remove a signal post that had been crushed beneath the train. Work continued throughout Friday evening. The next morning, the disabled tank wagons were removed from the tracks and normal train working was resumed on the main lines. Railway engineer workers then made arrangements to clear away the debris and repair the damaged signals and tracks. Returning to my film, these are the stop blocks of Barnetby's downside shunting yard. The yard was unstaffed and guards were charged with shunting and forming their own trains. The 2 stabling sidings and the 4 tracks of the yard were mainly used by ballast trains for weekend engineering work. This area was under the control of Wrawby Junction signalmen. The oil train, seen on the main line, was travelling through Wrawby Junction en route towards the Brigg direction. The Type 20 locomotive seen in the shunt spur was diagrammed from Frodingham Depot to Barnetby Sidings. This oil train, departing from number 2 stabling Sidings, is travelling towards the Lincoln route. We are now returning back in time to show the route at Barnetby from the front cab of the locomotive hauling the coal train from Immingham to Scunthorpe. After passing New Barnetby level crossing on the down main line, the train approaches Barnetby station area. We are now passing Barnetby East signal box towards Barnetby station. At the end of the platform line, the starting signal is shown in the off position and Wrawby Junction's distance signal is shown in the on position. This allows us to approach Wrawby Junction cautiously, as the next stop signal could be at danger. Goods wagons can be seen in both the up and down sidings. The signalman at Wrawby Junction has now cleared the stop signal seen on the gantry route signal post for our train to take the South Yorkshire route towards Elsham. On the same post, the stop signal at danger on the left is for the route towards the Lincoln line, and the one in the middle is for the route towards Brigg and Gainsborough. Wrawby Junction signal box stands on the upside of the junction. This is our coal train looking from the cab side window. Wrawby Junction signal box was built and opened by the Great Central Railway Company in 1916. This photograph by an unknown photographer was taken during construction and shows the corner of the original box. The box opened with a 132-lever frame and was the largest signal box of the Great Central Railway Company. During a re-signalling scheme, 5 more levers were added. However, as you can see, many were not in use. During my visit, the signalman on duty was David Neve. This is a DMU train on the Up-Maid line from the Brigg direction, travelling towards Barnetby Station and ultimately Cleethorpes.
Yeah.
David is now sending the out-of-section bell signal to the signalman at Brigg. This is the signal box diagram. The junction is in the middle. The lines on the right are to and from Barnetby Station. Barnetby down sidings are shown at the bottom. On the left, top right, is the route to and from Elsham for Scunthorpe. The one in the middle is the route to and from Brigg for Gainsborough, and the bottom left is the route for Market Raisin and Lincoln. The 2 white light indications on the diagram show a train approaching the junction from the Elsham direction. The train is a 6-speed freight train and has been directed onto the up-slow line. It contains IFF containers and its destination was Immingham Mineral Quay. Barnetby Sidings, once a busy yard, was now awaiting closure. On the main line heading towards Barnetby Station is another DMU for Cleethorpes.
Yeah.
We are used to seeing the tracks from the front cabs of locomotives, but these shots, after leaving Barnetby Station, are what the guard sees from the rear of a train.
It is. That's Podrick car. That car's just coming out. No, the keyboard's good. Yeah, no man doesn't want to swear because that's up. Them people are.
The guard on duty of this passenger train was Keith Smith from Cleethorpes. The train was on the down main line and the junction signal directs us towards Elsham for Scunthorpe and Doncaster.
I was looking for watch.
So that's really custom. The reason I took that, I used to live there as a kid, you know. I think they're all living. That was here at Lincoln branch. Get out the street. Down station. To the end of the Ingham.
The signal box diagram shows the double line of railway in the middle as the main line towards Brigg. Underneath is the next bit of the line where the double line merges into a single line towards Brigg station. The singling of the track to Brigg signal box was carried out in November 1984. Brigg, the next station, was diagrammed 3 stopping trains a day, each way, working between Cleethorpes and Sheffield. From the up platform, the view is of the station, looking in the direction of Brigg signal box and Bigby Road level crossing. Crossing over the footbridge were passengers for the next train to arrive from Cleethorpes. Brigg signal box, built by the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway Company in 1885, stands on the station side of Bigby Road level crossing next to the down main line. The single line on the diagram shows it returning to double track just before the crossing. The signalman, having accepted an ordinary passenger train from Wrawby Junction, began operating the hydraulic motor to open the 4 level crossing gates to let the train through. The train, a Cleethorpes to Sheffield diesel multiple unit, was approaching Brigg station, its next stop. The next block post along the line, Kirton Lime Sidings signal box, was filmed in the early hours of the morning. The box stands next to a roadway and operates trains through Kirton Tunnel, which opened on the 2nd of April 1849 with a double line of railway. It remained as such until 1982, when, during a re-signalling scheme, it was singled. The tunnel became a listed building in 1985. Coming out of the tunnel is a freight train from Earl's Sidings Hope Cement Works in Derbyshire. It contained wagons loaded with dry cement powder for the Kirton Lime Cement Works and was to be shunted into British Rail's Exchange Sidings. As the train came to a stand outside the box, the guard disembarked and walked to the Exchange Sidings to operate the hand points, thereby setting the route into the sidings. It then continued past the signal box under the road bridge so as to clear the set of points on the single line. The time was 6:30 a.m. and it was just getting daylight. Once the train came to a stand, the signalman reversed the points and cleared the signal for the shunt. The driver then begins to set the train back towards empty track number 2 in the Exchange Sidings. Once the train was inside track number 2 and was secured by the guard, the engine was uncoupled and returned towards the signal box onto the main line. Signalman Ellis Oldfield then operates the points and signals for the engine to travel towards the tunnel entrance, where a ground frame was to be used by the guard to allow the engine to reverse onto track siding number 1. After receiving a release, the guard operates the points and hand signals the driver to reverse his engine onto a train of empty tank wagons for their return journey back to Hope. The guard then reverses the ground frame points, thereby closing the engine inside the sidings to allow mainline trains to pass. The guard, after coupling up the engine, prepares the train for departure. Once he had finished his preparation, he would return to the ground frame and wait for the signalman to provide a release for him to operate the point levers once again. The train was then hauled onto the main line and into the tunnel so as to clear the points. Once clear of the points, the guard signalled the driver to stop. He then reverses the points and walks to rejoin the engine. Once the guard was aboard, the train would depart through the tunnel on its way back to Earl Sidings in Derbyshire. The signal box was built in 1885 by the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway Company. On this day, relief signalman Ellis Oldfield was on duty. In daylight, we can see the layout at Kirton Lime Sidings in more detail. These are the rail connections to the exchange sidings and the cement works. This ground positional signal enabled the firm's locomotive to make shunting movements between the exchange sidings without involving the signalman. This is the view of the inside of the works and the loaded PCA cement wagons in number 2 siding line. This view, filmed from the footpath on the bridge, is perhaps a better view of the layout and the entrance to the tunnel. At the other end of Kirton Tunnel stands Kirton Lindsey Station. During the 1980s, 3 daily, each way Sheffield and Cleethorpes trains would stop here. The station, now with only one platform, was unstaffed. Its buildings, the old station master's house and booking office, were now private dwellings. The next block post was Northorpe Signal Box. It opened in 1885, working trains in and out of Northorpe passenger station. Today it acts as a level crossing box, working between Kirton Lime Sidings and Gainsborough Station. The box diagram shows a passing loop.
Look, he bloody wakes up.
Resident signalman John Bell sends the 3-1 bell signal to Kirton Lime Sidings for a Sheffield to Cleethorpes passenger train travelling from Gainsborough. After the train had been accepted, he opens the level crossing gates and sets the route. In 1982, the up main line was removed between Thonnock Signal Box and Kirton Lime Sidings. The down line became the single line with the bi-directional passing loop, which the train, on its way towards Kirton Lindsey Station, is now passing. The route between Gainsborough and Brocklesby was the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway route to Grimsby and New Holland, and at that time was extremely busy with freight traffic. When the company changed its name to the Great Central Railway, they built a new dock at Immingham, a new signal box at Wrawby, and laid down 2 goods lines between Wrawby Junction and Brocklesby. These goods lines, for trains to and from Grimsby and Immingham docks, worked under permissive block and were allowed up to 7 trains at any one time. Barnetby was a congested area, and trains could stand for hours waiting for a path to proceed. Signalmen always had a train on the block and never had any spare time. This was how it was until the late 1970s, when Beechin's cuts devastated the freight industry. However, in the 1980s, there was still a steady flow of freight traffic to and from Immingham, but nothing to the same volume as the decade before. Well, thanks for watching the film. The next one, due in 2025, is called North Lincolnshire Railways Part 2.